Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Paydirt podcast. I'm Tom Hannifan. He is Matt McGloin. Penn State falls to a record of 5-3 this past Saturday night in Columbus, Ohio, going to visit number 5 Ohio State in what was a surprisingly competitive game all the way down to the end. Penn State ultimately falls to the Buckeyes by a score of 33-24. Considering the events of the last 3-4 weeks of Penn State football, this has certainly been surprising, confusing, stunning, astonishing, yet mildly inspiring. So there's a lot to dive into in regards to this game. We're going to break down the Penn State defense. Even though you give up 33 points and 466 yards, the defense played well. And then from Penn State's offense, Sean Clifford was the story, and the run game was non-existent. So we're going to dive into whether or not this is sustainable from Mike Yursich and company, and then kind of looking ahead at what the rest of the season is reasonably going to be for Penn State, because right now it feels relatively unpredictable. But one thing that's predictable is that we are back, and we're better than ever because all eyes are on the gridiron as teams are back on for another football season. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With a new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests, BetOnline continues to be the number one source for everything football. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Don't forget to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your bonus. From football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports. The Paydirt podcast is presented by BetOnline, where the game starts. And Matt and I are very excited because we have a new sponsor. Funk Brewing is the official craft beer partner of the Paydirt podcast. And Matt, this is something that's right in your backyard in northeastern Pennsylvania. You got a great relationship with the Funk Brewing guys, and I know you're a big fan of their products.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And they help me out every year as well with sponsoring and donating to charity golf tournament I run here in Northeast PA. But yeah, they've got a ton of good stuff, a lot of good seasonal stuff, right? Their citrus, IPA is delicious. Their little citrus IPA is delicious. I just had a silent disco IPA the other night, man, and it's very smooth. Their Hop Man series. There you go. You see it right there.
I stole this from your charity golf tournament and brought it with me.
There you go.
It's fantastic. I'm cracking it after this.
A friend of mine brought me in, I think it's a new beer of theirs. It's from like a Hop Man series. It's like, I can't think of the name of it. But anyways, it was fantastic. Their Funktoberfest is great as well. So again, dude, there's constantly new beer coming out, constantly new seasonal stuff. They do a great job, and anything you drink from there is solid. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and for Penn State fans that are watching this, it's perfect for tailgating. As we mentioned, the Citrus IPA and the Silent Disco IPA, really two of their absolute best. They have a lot of different styles and flavors, as you talked about, for all types of beer drinkers, 50-plus options over time altogether, I believe. Like, these guys don't mess around. You can find Funk Brewing at your favorite beer distributor and grocery store. Trust me, their fresh, funky flavors will satisfy your craft beer loving taste buds. For more information, visit funkbrewing.com to learn where and how you can get their fantastic products. Must be 21 years or older to purchase. Please drink responsibly. So I'm excited about that. This has been a challenging weekend for Penn State fans. I do want to take a brief moment and walk down memory lane, as we often do here on the Paydirt podcast, to celebrate a milestone in Penn State's history. This past Friday was the 10-year anniversary of Joe Paterno's 409th victory as the head coach of Penn State. And you, Matt, were a part of that. In fact, you were responsible for engineering the game-winning drive and leading Penn State down the field. Ultimately, it culminated in a Silas Red rushing touchdown. Anthony Farah got Penn State on the board. It was tight against Illinois, ultimately a 10-7 victory. But looking back on that game, what are some of your memories of that historic moment?
Yeah, I mean, everybody only really remembers the final minutes. They don't remember how bad we played offensively.
The rough first half was nothing at half.
For 50, 55 minutes, how bad we played. And if you remember, Tom, Derek Moy didn't play for a majority of that game. He had a foot injury. And then all of a sudden, I don't even think he could walk And then all of a sudden they throw him in the game at the end. And I remember, I remember a couple plays now that we're bringing it up. He comes in, I pump fake the screen. He goes up the sidelines. I throw a back shoulder to him. That was like the big completion starter. I threw an inside post route to Justin Brown. I threw a quick route to Moy. You remember it was a 4th down. I threw the ball like 45, 50 yards downfield. Trying to score.
Rangy, long, tall guy.
They threw a flag. We got to, but yeah, exactly. And that's the reason I did it, Tom. Like if I don't care, 1st down, 4th and 3, game on the line, whatever it was, if it's 1-on-1 downfield with, your best playmaker, give him a chance to go make a play. We ended up getting the flag. And as you said, Silas, scored that go-ahead touchdown run. And then, they missed the field goal off the upright, in a rainy, cold game, man. And again, I've been a part of, fortunately, I've been a part of a few games like that, Tom, where like Hollywood could not have written a better ending. So, what an awesome game, what an awesome celebration. And, what better way to win 409 than that right there. Awesome game.
Yeah. It was stressful to watch, but such a special moment for Joe Paterno to hit that milestone. And
what's funny, Tom? It's like, again, nobody remembers that entire game. You won the game, so all they remember is that last drive. It hides the fact that you played terribly for a majority of the game. Because who cares? Win the football game.
Right.
Win the game.
And it's funny you say that, and that helps me transition from the past to the present, because that has been the crux of the issue for Penn State fans in this present season, is that there have been high points, there have been some low points, obviously, but winning kind of forgives all sins. And this past Saturday night in Columbus, granted, Penn State does not come out with the victory, falls to 5-3, as I mentioned, a tight game against Ohio State. Again, it was number 20 visiting number 5. The spread going into the game was 19 points in favor of the Buckeyes. The over-under was 61 points. I think the pundits really believed that the Buckeyes were going to hang a lot of points on Penn State. And ultimately, the Nittany Lions, it was something you and I talked about last week. Jekyll and Hyde. You put the performance on tape that you did against Illinois, which was still baffling, and then you showed up. You looked prepared, and minus some turnovers and some challenges on the offensive side of the ball, Penn State was in this game. So what do you think is the overall meaning and takeaway from this loss to Ohio State?
I think if we've learned anything, not just from this Penn State-Ohio State game, but that Michigan State game as well, it's that Bama and Georgia are way ahead of everybody else now, right? And again, that includes Ohio State.
And we've known
that. And I mean, and again, a lot of good games throughout the Big Ten. But, it's details right now, and it's details on the offensive side of the ball. You can't turn the football over, Tom. You can't. You're in a position, you're down 3 points. You can't, and we'll get into this breakdown a little bit more when we talk about the offense. But you can't launch a ball downfield and hope for somebody to make a play for you like that in that situation. I think it's just continuing to grow, and I'm talking about the offense here because I think the defense played lights out. Continuing to grow as an offense, continuing to understand what situation you're in. They're just. And again, you mentioned the Illinois game, but like you look at this Ohio State game for me, and it's like you guys are so close. You're so close,
right?
But you're not there. You can't get it done.
Again, it's the performance that I mentioned. First 20 minutes of Iowa, the victory at home against Auburn, and then the victory on the road to face Wisconsin. Granted, the Badgers are not what we thought they were, but still, that was an important win at the time and looked good. And then you have the performance like you did against Illinois and the performance you did the latter half of the Iowa game. And it's just head scratching. How do you go from one to the other? I don't quite know what the answer is to that. And I frankly don't know if Penn State does.
Watch Wisconsin win the West now.
Yeah, very good chance. And Iowa's tumbling as well. Ever since the Iowa-Penn State game, both the programs are just completely unpredictable.
Even Minnesota is playing well there in the West, but watch Wisconsin win the West. Watch them go on a little bit of a roll here. And then you see, right now it looks like it's probably going to be Ohio State and whoever from the West. But watch it be Ohio State, Wisconsin there. I would love to see that.
Very likely. The way Michigan State bowed up and beat Michigan, little brother dethrones big brother, that was reflected, by the way, in the rankings. I do want to give the top 25, and then I want to stick with the Penn State offense. Penn State did remain in the top 25, which there were plenty of fans thinking that might not be the case, that they would fall out. Penn State is currently listed at number 22 in the AP top 25. And this will probably be music to a lot of Penn State fans' ears, is that the top 4 is 1, Georgia, 2, Cincinnati, 3, Alabama, 4, Oklahoma, 5, Michigan State, 6, Ohio State in the AP poll. So the victory for Michigan State over Michigan actually catapults them past the Buckeyes. And in fact, they swap places. It was amazing. Michigan drops to number 9 overall. 7's Oregon. 8 is Notre Dame. 10 is Wake Forest. That's my sister's grad school, so I'm very proud of my Deeks. But you know what? Like, there's turmoil in the Big Ten East, and Ohio State's got to be waking up this morning like, hey, wait a minute. We just beat what we think is a good football team, and we dropped. It's bizarre.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, look, and give Michigan State credit, because I thought Michigan was going to win that football game. And how about Kenneth Walker, man? I mean, you talk about playing big in a big moment, in a big game, where myself included, everybody was criticizing Michigan State. Like, they haven't really played anybody. Let's see what happens when they really get into their schedule here over the next few weeks. I mean, 5 touchdowns, the way he ran the football, man. I mean, I was wowed at times watching that kid play. So, I mean, that's a tough football team. You know, watching Mel Tucker on the sideline is about as like, it's as fun as watching Tom Allen, but in a different way, because like, how intense is that guy on the sideline, man? Like, it's, I mean, it's awesome. It's awesome to see that, man. You know, it's, you know, it's one of the coaches across the country that, you know, when you're not playing anymore, Tom, when you're watching the NFL, you're watching college, you're like, I'd like to have the opportunity. You know, I wish I had the opportunity to play for that guy. Mel Tucker, you know, seems like that guy for me, where I wish, you know, hey, I wish, you know, I had a chance to play for that guy and learn from that guy, because he's doing it the right way at Michigan State right now.
I've said it. He'd be my vote for the Big Ten Coach of the Year, and it looks like
no
running
doubt.
back and Kenneth Walker might be separating himself in terms of the Heisman race, slowly but surely, if Michigan State keeps up this pace. So you mentioned the Penn State offense, so I do want to stick with that. The split in terms of the play calling was about 64% pass. And then the rest of the running game just really did not come into play. You could see Penn State trying to get things going on the very first drive of the game and trying to commit to it in the first quarter. And ultimately, that proved to be a fruitless effort. Penn State finishes on the day with 29 carries for 33 yards, and somehow 2 touchdowns from Jahan Dotson and Kevon Lee, which is amazing. Sean Clifford accounts for 35 completions on 52 attempts passing, 361 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. It's something you and I discussed on last week's shows, is that this team potentially needs to consider abandoning the run game, and it certainly felt like that by about midway through the second quarter. Were you surprised to see them go to it and stick to it for as long as they did?
No, because they've been doing it all year. But that was one of the things that I'm thinking throughout the course of the game, is like, just stop running the football, throw the screens, throw the bubbles, just stop running it, because it's wasting plays. And for me, Tom, you know, I liked the game plan early on. I really did. But we're talking about the run. There was too many call it and run it runs. You know what I'm saying? Hey, call it, just go call it and run it. Like, no options. Give me options outside. I say it all the time. If it's a bad look, like, why are we running bad plays? Like, I don't want to just run the ball just to run the football. But where I want to start, and again, like, I like the game plan. So let's get that out there.
Sure.
On the road, defense gets a fumble. You have a chance to send a message early and try to shut that crowd up, and you run inside zone in a response, and you fumble and give the ball right back. Like, I'm throwing the ball 10 out of 10 times. I'm launching it down the field. At home in Beaver Stadium, all right, maybe that's a different story. But on the road, Ohio State fumbles. You got a chance. Take a shot. I have no clue why they didn't do that. But again, I like the way they played for the most part. I thought Sean looked 10 times better than he did a week ago, Tom. Right? Do I think he was 100%? No, I don't. But he took some big hits. He made some big plays. Should I say it? If he's 100%, I think it's a different game.
So here's a confusing thing. You and I and plenty of others watched the Illinois game. Sean wasn't 100%. He was bending over at the waist after certain throws. He looked like he was in a ton of pain. And the perplexing thing was that on Tuesday, James Franklin comes out and says, quote, Sean Clifford is 100%, which seemed like, how is that humanly possible? And then Sean comes out And he does look like he's pretty close to 100% for most of that game. Yeah, he's banged up, but it's like, I think it's just the issue that these injuries just don't get disclosed, and there's only so much information that we know. But that was just so surprising to see the way Sean was doing design runs. He was not shying away from contact. He was active. He was aggressive. It was just night and day from what we saw against Illinois.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, again, I don't think he was 100%. You know, I'm thinking they could have had a chance to win it, a better chance to win it if he was 100. If he was playing the way, he was playing early on in the year, and he was as healthy as he was early on in the year. And I point to a few things because of that. The sack fumble, right? I mean, obviously that's what you can't do in that game. You can't fumble the football. And I think, people are probably thinking, well, he got hit, he fumbled the football, it happens, right? He's got to push the pocket in that situation, right, Tom? Defensive ends are taught to the rush, the depth of you. I thought Sean was just flat-footed standing there. They just collapsed on him, and he lost it. And again, you don't know if the hit bothered him, and he lost the ball, right? You don't know. They brought pressure up the middle. Noah Kane did an awesome job of picking it up. Fortunately for Penn State, they were able to make it 17-10 before the half, but that fumble was huge, and again, certainly looked better than he did a week ago, but at times I thought he was still a little timid out there, and I'm not blaming him. This is not me criticizing him. Please understand that I'm not doing that. He's not himself because he's still a little bit injured, and that sucks. I get it. It's brutal. And because I think people realize that, and myself included, you might be 7-1. Hell, you might be 8-0 if he never got hurt, man. And that's tough to deal with. It is.
So I want to come to the point that I made earlier about sustainability. 52 attempts, ultimately 56 dropbacks. I thought Thomas Frank Carr of Blue White Illustrated made a really good point on his social media. I believe we're recording this on Sunday, so I think he tweeted it this morning. You have to expect that if your quarterback drops back 56 times, not all of them are going to be perfect, that there are going to be errors, that he's going to make mistakes. Obviously, as you mentioned, the fumble, not the best play. The interception, didn't have space to step into the throw and launch the pass that he absolutely should not have thrown, in shades of 2020 Sean Clifford. But is this just going to be what Penn State has to live and die with the remainder of the season? Is this type of offense sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a tough question, Tom. To be able to sustaining consistency and playing well week in and week out, it's hard to do. I think what good teams do, teams like the Ohio States or teams like the Bamas or the Georgias or whoever, maybe the Oklahomas, week in and week out, is that right? They don't play as well as they may have played in past weeks, but they find ways to win football games. Right? They don't just throw a pick or fumble and that's it. Right? They find ways to overcome that and make up for it. They find ways that if your defense is getting red zone stands or goal line stands, you find points in return offensively off of that things. Right? They're able to use momentum to help themselves win games. But that's it. And I go back to the consistency because, he's certainly not 100% yet. He's still not healthy. And now that he's playing and not healthy, that's going to take more and more time to recover. But good. No, look, it was a great game. It really was. Defense was lights out. I mean, offense made a few errors. I thought they responded well.
That's not
right.
good.
You look at the second half. What a way to start the second half. 4.5 minute drive, a touchdown, made it 17-17.
Matt,
I wish in the second half, Tom, that they started to move the pocket more, right? A little more boots, roll out, sprint outs, something to keep that defensive line honest and prevent them from just flying up the field full speed. But they did a good job again. I like the game plan from Mike Yurcich.
So my question ultimately is, does Penn State just have to live and die by this style of offense the rest of the season? Is this sustainable for the Nittany Lions?
The difference between excellent teams, Tom, and good teams and just average teams, it's the ability to do it every single week, right? Can you be consistent every single week? Can you play well every single week? And there has to be certain levels of that, right? Because you're not going to play as well as this week as you can the following week. But what good teams do is they find ways to win, right? They don't beat themselves. If your defense is getting stands in the red zone and goal line stands as well, you're able to find ways to get points off of that and win football games. You're able to capitalize in those moments. Penn State hasn't been able to do that. And that's why they've lost. That's why they've been able, lost football games. That's why they lost this Ohio State game. They responded well, because a few times in that game, they could have been, all right, that's it. It's over. But they responded great. I mean, look at the second half. What a way to start the second half. 4.5-minute drive. You scored. You made it 17-17. I wish in the second half they went to more boots, more rollouts, sprint outs, move the pocket more, just something to keep that defensive line honest and prevent them from just flying up the field full speed nonstop and going after Sean Clifford. And, we're talking about sustaining good play, being consistent. And this is, you briefly mentioned it, but this is a moment that I'm talking about. 27-24, 11.5 in the fourth quarter. On this play where, you're running a bubble or it's a smoke to the outside and you're pump faking it, Tom, you're taught pump fake it, boom, get your eyes back on the safety and hold him, because you're trying to bait the corner. You're thinking the corner is going to settle, and then you're going to be able to throw that route down the sideline. We're talking about the Illinois 409 game. That's the play we ran. Fake it, and that's the route I threw to Derek Moy. Sean fakes right. He finds the safety, and then he tries to go back left. There's nothing holding that corner, that boundary corner, right? And obviously he's got Tyreek Smith, defensive lineman from Ohio State, in his face, and he knew it was Dotson. He just launched it up and tried to air it out and say, Jahan, go try to make a play for me. But it's in those situations where you got to understand, like, if it's not there right away, if I don't have the pump fake go, just throw the bubble, just throw the smoke, get it out of your hand, stay on track, right? You're still in this game, or take a sack, right? But it's the moments like that they can't seem to get away from.
Credit to Ohio State. They knew exactly what to do. Defensively, their strategy was sound. They sacked Sean Clifford 4 times. They got pressure throughout the game. They were run blitzing. They were blitzing passing attempts. They were very much trying to make this offensive line uncomfortable, and then especially to make Sean Clifford uncomfortable, knowing that physically the guy's not 100%, and if you rough him up, that's certainly going to help things. 3 turnovers overall for the Penn State offense. 2 of them coming from Sean Clifford, 1 from Noah Cain. This rushing attack is just anemic. I've said it before. I genuinely do not believe this is the fault of ball carriers necessarily. I think Noah Cain is having a rough season, period. I think John Lovett and Kevon Lee are probably the 2 guys. Even then, I think we've known since August that there's not a Saquon Barkley on this roster, and that's okay. But this offensive line looked like they were more aggressive and a little bit more sound for parts of this game. Like, it just felt like incrementally better, but the production wasn't there to continue it. And it's something that I talked about on the last show that we did, man, was that this receiving core, all the ball catchers in terms of tight ends, wide receivers, even running backs, that is the strength of this offense. It was really nice to see Parker Washington. He didn't get involved a ton against Illinois. He showed up big time in the first half. Then you get Jahan Dotson really doing some special stuff in the second half. Tight ends are all over the field. Keandre Lambert-Smith was there. Great to see Malik Mega getting some important reps as a guy that you're going to need in the future. So there's positivity, but it is concerning in terms of what they put on tape against Ohio State. So
you mentioned, and real quick before we go defense time, you mentioned there was good. There really was good in that game. Long drives.
24 points on a decent defense. And Ohio State's a beatable defense, obviously. But
fantastic on third down. Fantastic on third down. Long drives. You got points. Guys made plays. Jahan Dotson struggling getting him the football early on. Parker Washington steps up consistent, reliable all day. Tight ends made plays for you. And then Jahan Dotson, caught up and played fantastic as well. So there's a lot of good there. It's just, it doesn't matter if it's Penn State or not. Turnovers, you can't turn the football over and in that game and expect to win.
I do want to ask you about a couple choices by the Penn State coaching staff, a couple referee calls. I know that was something that fans were interested in, and I do want to dive into what the Penn State defense ultimately did on the day, which was very impressive. But before we get to that, all of us involved here at the Paydirt podcast are proud supporters of Thon, also known as the Penn State Dance Marathon. Thon is a year-long effort dedicated to raising funds and awareness for its sole beneficiary, Four Diamonds at Penn State Health Children's Hospital. Thon is the largest student-run philanthropy in the world, committed to enhancing the lives of children and families impacted by childhood cancer. Four Diamonds picks up where insurance leaves off to relieve financial stress and provide emotional support so that no family ever has to see a medical bill. Since 1973, Thon has raised over $190 million in the fight against childhood cancer. To learn more about Thon or to donate, visit thon.org. That's thon.org. It's all for the kids. Make a difference in the life of a child today. On another personal note, we want to take this opportunity to put a spotlight on mental health with a new initiative called Tag Me In. Tag Me In is simply asking for people to tag in on the conversation and help strip away the stigma around mental health. Whether you're looking to lend support, you want to talk, you want to share, maybe you need some help. We invite you to join in on the conversation. We encourage you to make a video if you'd like, post it on your social media channels, and use hashtag #TagMeIn and hashtag #TagMeInUnited. At the very least, we want to hear from you. Tag Me In United is a proud partner and supporter of the National Alliance on Mental Illness, also known as NAMI. If you'd like to show your support, you can purchase a Tag Me In t-shirt right now at prowrestlingtees.com/tagmeinunited, and the proceeds will be gifted to NAMI. The link to this is provided in the description of this podcast. You are not alone. Tag Me In. Visit tagmeinunited.com to learn more. So I do want to touch on the Penn State coaching staff and some of the game management decisions. And it's a subject we touched on quite a bit, and it just continues to be very, very frustrating. I remember notably there was a play early in the first half in terms of a 4th and 5 opportunity that Penn State elected to go for it at the 45-yard line in Ohio State territory. And it just felt like at that time that the Ohio State offense was beginning to gain some steam, and Penn State ultimately goes for it. Ohio State gets the ball on downs. And this is just something that's been going on now for 8 years. And I do have to point this to James Franklin because ultimately it's his call. We all know the understanding that James Franklin has, or our understanding of what James Franklin believes from analytics, that basically from Penn State's 40 to the opponent's 40, he thinks that's 4 down territory. Do you have to throw that out the window at this point? And frankly, I've been talking about this all season, but at what point is it going to take? Because really, this was a field position game. You and I talked about it. This should be kind of what Iowa tried to do to Penn State. Play field position and lean on your defense.
Right. You mentioned lean on your defense. So I think that's what he was thinking. And I think that's what he was trying to do in case they didn't get it. But look, I'm a big, no, exactly. I'm with you. I'm a big situational football guy. You punt the ball there. This is the best offense in the nation. Right. And credit to the defense because they got to stop the 3 and out. They had to punt the football. But now if you're Penn State offense, you're dealing with the full field rather than punting that ball from midfield, trying to pin them inside their 20. What if you get a 3 and out from there? Then they're punting from the paint. And now you're getting the ball at midfield and off as an offense. So who knows what could have happened in that situation? But their offense was struggling at that point. So I punt that ball. I try to make them go the full field against our defense. Right? It's just there's nothing wrong with punting the ball, especially early in the game like that. Right? I mean, that's something Bill O'Brien said all the time. Reserve the right to punt the football. Mm-hmm. Right? If you could do that, you're gonna have a chance to win. But yeah, it's on the road, going 4 and 4th downtown. Yeah, I mean, I didn't agree with it. I would have kicked it.
There were some comments raised by Penn State fans in terms of issues with the refereeing. And frankly, in big time games like this, it always is a subject. I found that one of the more critical plays that I think was actually a good decision by the referees was late in the second half. The one where John Lovett ran out of bounds, looked like he caught that wheel pass and could have run all the way for a touchdown. And that really could have changed the momentum of the game. But ultimately, it was deemed that he ran out of bounds on his own volition and that he was not pushed out of bounds. Even the Ohio State player just kind of tapped him and he went out of bounds. Clearly, Lovett was angling that way. So I genuinely believe that was the right call. Did you have any issue with the referees in this game?
I don't think so. I think there was a late hit on Joey Porter Jr., right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, there was one that he got a penalty for a late hit when Garrett Wilson caught a pass along the sideline, and it was just bang, bang how quickly it happened because Garrett Wilson is sliding to make the catch right along the chalk, and Joey's just right behind him. And the argument is, what was Joey supposed to do?
You're supposed to hit him. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And he did that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, because you're not just going to let him catch the football, right? He's got to complete that catch. Right, catch it. He's already down. Catch it, and then he's going to go down. But Joey Porter Jr. has every right to try to break that up. But no, other than that, I thought it was fine. You're right. The John Lovett ran out of bounds, ran back, and you could see what Franklin was saying to the refs. He's like, I want to challenge it. I want to challenge it. Didn't look like the refs were. Yeah, go ahead.
Glad you brought that up because you and I both know you can't challenge a penalty. So
there you go. Yeah.
Why is James Franklin asking that?
I don't know. I don't know.
It's troublesome. There's certain game management things about this staff, and they don't necessarily all fall on James Franklin. There's a lot of guys involved, but it's troublesome. I'll leave it at that. Let's move on to the Penn State defense.
Go ahead.
Honestly, I think the Penn State defense did exactly what we were hoping they would do because we've seen it happen in September and much of October, is that they were, despite the points and the yardage that was put up, they were pretty lights out. They were really making life difficult for Ohio State. How many times did they have to force a fourth down in Penn State territory, and Ohio State just looked visibly ticked off and frustrated. You could tell Ryan Day and his staff were like, we should be destroying this team based on what Penn State put on tape against Illinois. And then to me, I'm curious what you think. Ohio State's game plan seemed flawed from the beginning. As opposed to lining up and running the ball down Penn State's throat like Illinois did with Travion Henderson, who had a great game, is going to have a great career. They instead leaned on the freshman quarterback, C.J. Stroud, who it took him about a half to really get going. Yeah. But still, it just seemed like a flawed game plan. And Penn State was like, okay, go for it.
Well, I think they thought they were just going to walk all over Penn State after what they saw in that Illinois game. I really did. Like, it's like they were expecting to go out there and perform the way they performed the past 4 weeks, right? Put up 50-plus points, do whatever they wanted with the football in the run game, in the pass game. They couldn't do that. Right. And that's tough when you're rolling the way they were rolling. It's tough to kind of sit back and be like, all right, whoa, this isn't working for us. What do we need to do? Right. There was communication issues, false starts. And that's why I brought up Bama and Georgia to start the show. Right. Because Bama and Georgia, I think, destroy that Ohio State offense right now. Don't get me wrong. It's good. There's talented guys, there's skill players there right now, but they're not there yet. Right. I don't think they're there yet. And you look at the way this game started, we touched on it earlier, strip fumble to start the game. You couldn't ask for a better way for defensively to start this game. This defense was hitting hard, Tom. Like, that's one of the first things I noticed. I was like, wow, these guys are flying around, man. They're ready to play. These guys are physical. Like, they made it a point to stop the run early on. When you look at C.J. Stroud, when they pressured and hurried Stroud, he was off. He was inaccurate. I mean, and he's a young kid still, but this is a kid. He wants to set his feet. He wants to stay in rhythm. He's a great creator, right? When it gets late in the down, he's very dangerous. And Ohio State is dangerous in that situation, right? I mean, they're good in every way offensively, running, passing. The boot game is great, extending plays. And for Penn State's defense, Tom, you can play lights out, but there's only so much that you can do.
Yeah. Stroud is going to have a nice career, but like just about every quarterback that has ever played the game, if you're pressured, it's not that comfortable. What did you think about the Penn State defensive line? Because the theme of this episode might as well be night and day, because it seemed like against Illinois, the loss of P.J. Mustipher was gigantic. This week, it just seemed different. It seemed like Derek Tangelo especially stepped up and had a nice first 3 quarters of play, and then you could tell the fatigue was starting to wear on for the defensive line. What do you think of their effort overall?
Ebiketti's fantastic.
Yep.
He's a great player. He's the strength of that defensive line right now. They did a really good job of containing Travion Henderson. And what's hard, and this happened the second half, it happened later in the game, when you miss a tackle with this guy, big explosive plays occur after. And there's one play in particular that I'm thinking of. He ran down the left sideline. Tarburton just missed the tackle, and 91. Can't think of his name right now, Tom.
I think it's Ellie's, I believe.
Yes, but he got his back turned and was just lost. Henderson was able to hit the hole, hit the crease, and had that big play, man. And it's just like you can't give them an inch, right? That because they're too good to do that. And there you go. For the most part, they did a fantastic job of that. And I have to bring up the secondary as well, because Tariq Castro-Fields, Joey Porter, they did such a good job against these wide receivers, right? I couldn't care less about the penalties from Porter, because you have to be physical in this game. You have to be tough with these guys. You have to frustrate them. And he did that. But I mean, and even with the wide receiver spot time as well, we saw the Smith and Jigba play, right? He broke a tackle. Brown took a bad route, a bad angle, and he's able to get upfield for a huge play. So, understand for Penn State defensively, they're going to get theirs, right? They're going to get their plays. They're going to get their yardage. What you have to do is stop the drive, hold to 3, red zone, goal line. Penn State did that. They did their job Saturday night.
And that's a good offensive line from Ohio State. A lot has been reported that every guy on the offensive line for Ohio State has played the tackle position at one point. Yeah. Obviously, they're not all playing tackle right now.
And it's like
there are a lot of Sunday bodies, so to speak.
Yeah, and we're talking defense here, and we're trying to pick out a handful of plays. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
to talk about,
But Matt, the thing I liked is that how different it was from Illinois. Illinois, the defensive line was getting blown backwards consistently. Mm-hmm. So as a result, you've got, and we talked about it, second and third level guys having to make plays. This week against Ohio State, the defensive line was, if anything, just holding their ground at the line of scrimmage, or they were getting consistent pressure, at least in the first half of play, first 3 quarters. They were consistently moving the offensive line backwards at least a yard or something. That then frees your second level guys, Jacobs, Smith, and Brooks, to make a ton of plays as opposed to just having to make the play. And then you saw guys like Tig Brown, who's really developing, and Jaquan Brisker just flying to the ball carrier and laying some wood. So it just seemed like the application of the strength of the defense was vastly improved just because the defensive line made an incremental jump.
Yeah, even the touchdown was the Ohio State touchdown to Olave. He ran that deep over route.
Yeah.
The 7-man pass pro, right? They went, max pro. That's great play design by Ryan Day. It's not like anybody really blew a coverage. It's not like anybody really had a missed assignment, right? Because it's a slot formation. So if Tariq Castro-Fields, you have to respect that vertical threat by Ohio State's tight end. I think it was Ruckert. So he's going vertical. Castro-Field has eyes on him. When he breaks in, it's too late for Castro-Fields to continue to get depth and try to see that deep crossing route to Olave. I mean, Brisker's in the middle of the field. I think he thought he was going to run a post, so he had his hips turned, and then Olave just crossed face, and Stroud knows nobody's over there. He just made a great. So it's good offensive play, right? And that's game plan by Ryan Day and Ohio State. How do they play the slot formation? How do you beat it? Stuff like that happens in a game. But again, there's only a handful of plays that stick out to me. Like the defense kept this game from getting out of control. I thought, Tom, they did a fantastic job. How good is Brent Pry, as a defensive coordinator and as a coach?
He's done really well.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
He makes some very good adjustments. And overall, I come back to Ohio State. I thought their game plan was odd, and they left points on the field. That could have been a 12-point margin. They passed on a field goal and were trying to be aggressive very late in the game when they had a lead. And it was the same thing I thought about Penn State in that 4th and 5. And it's like, listen, take the field position or take the points. I think it comes back to what you said. The tape against Illinois was so confusing and so what is this team, that Ohio State probably was feeling pretty confident coming into this, and then was frustrated visibly late in the game when it wasn't just an absolute blowout. So now my question is, you got 4 games left. So you go on the road to Maryland, you host Michigan, you host Rutgers, and then you're at Michigan State. By no means an easy stretch. What is this Penn State team?
You don't know. right? We don't know right now on the outside looking in. I mean, that's up to them to decide, Tom, where you want to go from here. You've lost 3 games in a row, right? You're sitting here, you're 5-3. You have a Maryland team who just was able to bounce back offensively to lead through for over 400 yards. So they're gonna throw the football at you. They're gonna, right? They're not really a run heavy team. They're gonna try to throw the football all over the field. But I mean, can you stop the bleeding? Right? Or are you going to let this snowball? Do you know what I mean? It's how you show up on Monday morning. Are you still thinking about Saturday? Are you still thinking about Illinois? Are you still thinking about Iowa? Or is it is what it is? Let's move forward now and let's beat Maryland. No, they talk about 1-0. They talk about, who are we playing this week, right? Maryland. We see that every week. That's what it's got to be. Right? You have to figure it out. You have to keep showing up. You have to keep grinding. You have to keep fighting. You have to keep continuing to prep. Because Maryland would love to beat Penn State again. Everybody would love to beat Penn State. Right? Mm-hmm. That's a huge win for teams. So, I mean, it certainly doesn't slow down. So you can't slow down. You have to continue to push forward, Tom. Otherwise, what's the alternative?
Well,
you lose. You continue to lose.
Right now, say you go 0 for the remainder of the season. That's ugly. I don't think that's the case. I genuinely don't believe that's the case. However, the old adage in football is that you are what your record is. And Penn State is going on the road to Maryland, who has an identical record overall and in conference to Penn State. So this won't be easy by any means. And then you have Michigan, which despite the loss to Michigan State, excellent football team. Rutgers, you believe, is a winnable game. Michigan State's going to be a real test at the end of the season.
Now it is, Tom. Now it is. Serious. I didn't, and I have to be honest, I didn't think it was going to be. Mm-hmm. I thought Michigan would be very tough. I think this Maryland team is going to be tough. You can't let them hang around. Michigan game is certainly going to be tough. Rutgers game is going to be tough. There's a well-coached team, well-prepared team. I didn't expect that Michigan State game to be as tough as I think it's going to be now. Right? I thought Michigan was going to win. But these 4 games are dangerous, man.
Wild times in the Big Ten. So number 22, Penn State goes on the road this Saturday to Maryland. This Saturday, November 6th. The game is a 3:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff on FS1. Of course, we're going to have a full breakdown of that game this Friday. And as well, I'm very happy to announce the first ever guest on the Paydirt podcast. Matt, I know you're going to be excited about this. It is a former Maryland Terrapin. His name at the time when he played for Maryland was Dean Mutati, former defensive lineman. I know him from my time in WWE as Mojo Raleigh, and he now goes by Mojo Mutati, and he's doing some really big things with TMZ Sports and his own company called Paragon Talent, which I'm very happy to be partnered with. But we're going to have a Terrapin on the show to give us a little bit of a preview of what they're all about. I know you're a wrestling guy. I know you're a football guy, so this should be fun. He's a hyped up dude.
I got to stay hyped, man. I got to bring the energy. Let's go. That's gonna be fun. That'll be fun, man. It'll be a fun episode.
It'll be good. I'm excited. First ever guest. I'm all about first time ever stuff. I got the old wrestling brain. So I do have one more question for you because we're recording this on Sunday. It's Halloween. What is Matt McGloin going for? What? Oh my God, I can't even talk. What is your costume going to be for Halloween?
So my son is going as Spider-Man. So
awesome.
For a few weeks now, he's been telling me that I have to go as the Hulk.
So, okay.
And it never changed. Like it wasn't like, hey, Dad, Hulk, you're going as the Hulk, or you're going as Captain America or Iron Man or anything like that. It's been Hulk, dude. So I went to Party City, sold out of Hulk costumes. I called a Party City in another city, sold out. I called a Party City in another city around Scranton, sold out. So I was like panicking. I couldn't find a Hulk costume. Finally, a local Halloween store in downtown Scranton had the Hulk costume that I was looking for. So that's my costume, man. We'll go out trick or treating. We'll go see some decorations around the city. So it's gonna be fun. Yeah, what are you wearing? What are you wearing? Anything?
I'm watching the Eagles against the Lions. We'll see if they pull it out here. But I'm celebrating with some family today. This will be a good day. Hopefully, we're celebrating a win. So I'm just not that big a Halloween guy.
Yeah, All right, you passing out candy at least?
I'll get some. I'll get some candy.
There you go.
It'll be fun. And I do want to congratulate you. And just a little heads up for all our listeners is that you and your wife have a second on the way. So we're going to be banking some episodes for the month of January. So we're very interested to hear from our listeners in terms of like, hey, what would you like to hear us dive into? Just some evergreen stuff, some old stories of Matt's playing days. We can dive into how horrible of an athlete I was at the high school level. That could be really fun. My time in WWE. There's a lot of stuff we can talk about. And that way it's going to give Matt some paternity leave from the Paydirt podcast. So we're just looking ahead to when we bank some stuff for January.
And last thing as well, Tom, and any guests that, our listeners think that, they'd want to have on the show moving forward, like former Penn State players, you want to talk about their careers and things like that, please, comment and let us know.
Yeah. Like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications. Thank you all for joining us for this edition, and we will see you Friday for a preview of Penn State versus Maryland right here on Paydirt.